anything about politics. My name is Jarrett, and I am here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I do not judge, I do not roast, and I do not debate. I do not believe that debates are productive, and so I don't do them. I am here instead just to engage in good faith on the issues, and hopefully we can all have a better understanding of what's going on in our country and in our government. Hopefully, we can get back to a shared reality where we can at least agree with what's going on and maybe disagree about how to fix it as opposed to just even disagreeing about what's going on. So, throw your questions in the chat and let's get to talking. I'm happy to engage with anybody, Democrats, Republicans, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. Whatever your specific political flavor is not. I'm not going to kick you out for your belief in that. As long as you are asking questions in good faith and you're open to new ideas, then you are welcome here. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat, and we will get to answering them. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So this is the show where you can ask all of your questions about politics and nobody's going to judge you or roast you or make fun of you for trying to learn new things. Dan Blackwood says, Whigs, anyone? Yeah, if there's anybody in the Whig party, if there's any know nothings that want to come on, I'm down for all of that. And that is the full extent of my knowledge of obscure American political parties is the Whigs and the know nothings. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Jarrett Berenstein, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics. Oh, thank you, Dan. I really appreciate you and Mia helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Alrighty, let's see here. Okay. Definitely don't need that. Okay. Also don't need that. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Jarrett, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. So throw your questions in the chat, and we will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something in the outskirts. I'm not here to fight, and I'm not here to debate. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat, and know that you're not going to get roasted or made fun of or yelled at. AJ says, which party do you think would get more midterm wins? It's a difficult question to answer because there's been a significant amount of partisan gerrymandering. And additionally, the Republican Party and the Trump administration are preparing to do a lot of fuckery to try to lie, cheat, and steal their way into victory. So if it was a fair fight, I would say Democrats 100%. But for a long time, the electoral systems have been unfair to the Democratic Party, and going into 2026 is no exception. Jacob says, do you think the two-party system is bad? People nowadays focus on party rather than actual policies. Jacob, I would argue that focusing on party is focusing on policies. Like, it doesn't really matter who the Democrat is that I'm going to be voting for. I'm pretty confident that that Democrat is down with taxing the rich, regulating pollution, stopping climate change, doing something about gun violence, getting rid of income inequality, investing in education, all the stuff that I care about. And if somebody's a Republican candidate, I can pretty much guarantee that they are just going to do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do, that they're kind of trying to cut taxes for the wealthy, cut government programs that help everybody else. Just kind of toe the party line. So yeah, I don't really view voting for a political party or a political party's platform as being a bad way of doing politics. But yeah, the two-party system could definitely use some adjusting. I don't disagree with that. I think that people can be a little hyperbolic about what exactly is the problem with how many problems are being caused by the two-party system and how many problems are just caused by billionaires and the Republican Party. Liam says, have you heard about this guy, Donald Trump? Name sounds familiar. Ray says, can you even name 5 countries outside of America? Sure. Mr. K says, hello, do you know anything about me? Sounds like about Hungary? I don't, sorry. George says, can we sue a social media platform for harmful algorithms? I believe it's kind of novel legal theory right now. and it's working its way through the courts. Like, people are doing it, and we'll see how successful it is. We will see if a corrupt and complicit Supreme Court will stand by decisions from the lower courts if they go against those social media companies. App says, do you believe in complete democracy? I don't know what you mean by complete democracy. Cassian Criminal says, what do you think will actually happen with the midterm elections, like the outcomes? Predictions are worthless, Cassian, so I don't recommend basing your activities based on somebody's predictions. I just say work towards the outcome that you want to happen. If you want Democrats to win, do some work. If you want Republicans to win, do some work, etc. Charles says, what do you think about Israel? I'm for the people. I'm against the government. Blue November says, voting only for candidates that do not take money from AIPAC or the Israeli lobby. Blue November, I'm down with that, so long as you're just talking about the primary. But if you're talking about the general election, and you got two candidates who both take AIPAC money, one's a Democrat and one's a Republican, I sure hope that you would still vote for the Democrat, because the Democrat that takes AIPAC money is still going to be better on the issues surrounding Israel than a Republican who's taking AIPAC money. And I'm happy to go into more detail on that if you like. What is up, Ecuadorian? Great to see you again. RG says, the problem isn't what either party stands for. The problem is that most people disagree with both. I find that really hard to believe, RG, because I think that there's a way that I can talk about Democratic Party politics that most people would agree with. I think that people are just being tricked by the social media algorithms into thinking that the parties stand for things that are not the things that they stand for. Ray says, name them then. Okay. England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Belgium, Germany, Sudan, South Africa, Thailand, South Korea, Japan. There's a whole bunch for you. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the TikTok comments. What's up, Sabence? Jackie says, talk about upcoming Democratic policy. Can you be more specific? Celoto says, it's true, they disagree with both. Biden stood behind it. I don't agree with that at all, Celoto. Sabsen says, did you think Ted Krasinski was a good guy? I don't think so, if I'm remembering who that was. 43 Vic says, don't think politics matter if you... I don't think politics matter if you have money. I mean, I disagree with that. There's a reason why billionaires spend so much on political campaigns. It's because whoever wins can have a massive effect on how much of their own money they get to keep. Well, I agree with you that even if we elected only the most aggressive, tax the wealthy, Democratic Socialist AOC Bernie Sanders is that we have in America, those rich people's lives would still be pretty fucking good comparatively. Only everything else in the country would also be better. But yeah, they're greedy and they want to keep more of their money. Ergo, they spend a lot of money to try to affect politics. Siloto says, are you pro abolishing the Fed? I have not heard a good argument for it, Siloto. Milk Vote says, isn't politics a distraction by the people in power to avoid uniting against them? No, Milk Votes, it is not. There are wildly different outcomes in people's lives depending on who is in charge. Now, it is true to say that the billionaire class wants us fighting amongst ourselves so that we don't fight them. But it is not true to say that there is no difference between when Democrats are in charge versus when Republicans are in charge. On the state and federal level, people's lives are better when Democrats are in charge versus Republicans. GJ says, politics is bad, do not politics. No. Siloto says, are you familiar with Michael Hudson works? No, I'm not. Casting says, do you think religion should stay out of politics? Yeah, separation of church and state. Freedom of religion. I'm down for all that. Somebody with no screen name or picture says, communism in the United States, when poorly implemented, what do you think results would be? I'm not really sure what you mean by that question. Because we already have some communism in America. We have employee-owned companies. We have unions. We have worker protections. Like, that's communist in essence. Catherine says, Republican or Democrat? Democrat. Milkfoot says, why is the current political system so against the popular vote compact and ranked choice voting? It's not the current political system that's against that. It's the Republican Party that's against that. The Democratic Party is down with all that stuff. The Democratic blue states have more ranked choice voting than red states. The Democratic Party is looking into ranked choice voting for their primary. The Democratic states have all signed on to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. It really is just the red states and the swing states that are the holdouts that are milk votes. Adventures with Jack says, I have a question about Charlie Kirk. Well, then go ahead and ask it. Druid says, what's more important to you, climate change or women's rights? I do not view either of those as being more important than the other. They're both essential, I would say. SLT says, okay, fine, screw my question. Did I miss your question? Do you think the Nordic model could work in America? Yes, I do, SLT. Sorry, I didn't see it. You know I love you. Siloto says, "Do you agree with Obama bailing out the banks?" So is there another way that that could have gone if Barack Obama had sort of like dictatorial powers and he didn't have to worry about compromising with Republicans or centrist Democrats? Sure, maybe. But the fact of the matter is, like, bailing out the banks, it worked, and also it made money because they paid interest on those loans. But yeah, in a perfect world, yeah, we give that money to the people instead, and those big banks break apart and start and turn into little banks instead. Dave says, I was a big fan of 80s, 90s Democrats, not so much democratic socialism. How come, Dave? What is the issue with democratic socialism? Henry says, so is it Berenstein or Berenstain Bears? I am a Berenstein. I don't know who the Berenstains are. Putney McPunderson says, someone threw a beer at DJT today. Don't worry, though. It was a draft and he was able to dodge it. I've heard that joke before, Putney, and I'll never not like it. Right. Milk says, as a progressive, why am I being told my candidate can't win a general election when moderates lose? So Milk votes, I think that depending on where you are in the country, progressive candidates have either a good or worse chance of being elected. I'm a big fan of Abdul El Sayed, who's running in Michigan, but a poll just came out that said that the Republican candidate is polling better than Abdul El Sayed by double digits, but is neck and neck with the centrist. And so, if I'm a person who cares way more about just a Democrat being elected than the Democrat that I like the best being elected, maybe I endorse Stevens instead of El Sayed, But I do think that the opposite is true, that there are places in this country where progressives have a way better chance of winning elections than centrist candidates. Cuomo versus Mamdani as an example. But also, and this I think is really important, that in the places in the country where progressives are not doing good or not polling well, I think that it's only a matter of time before that changes. I think that there are certain places in the country where they're not getting the information about how good democratic socialist policies are. Ergo, they have this like unconscious, irrational fear of them, and they have a lot of beliefs about them that are inaccurate, I would say. Because my friend Dave said, so I was a big fan of 80s, 90s Democrats, not so much a fan of democratic socialism. And I asked Dave to tell me more about that, and I do not see Dave's response here at all. So yeah, Dave, let me know, man. I want to talk to you about it. What's going on, Dave? Hook me up, my guy. Let me know what your deal is. Celoto says, I think Obama kicked the can further down with bailing them out. I mean, an argument could be made, but again, you're forgetting that the presidency is not a dictatorship, and he had to work with everybody that was in Congress. He had to think about what the Supreme Court would allow, and the Supreme Court was better back then, but not great. It was still the Roberts Court with a conservative majority. Chris 11 says, opinion on Mamdani. I like him a lot. Funkytron says, I lean left, often side with Democrat, but people like Schumer, Booker, Jeffries need to get out of office. No arguments there, Funkytron. Squidball says, why did Ukraine attack Iran? I do not believe that they did. BM Jer says, how good the policies are. Democratic policies good, Republican policies bad. Brethren Hudson says, what do you think of Democrats? I like them. Stephen Michael says, what about Sanders at Dem convention? Was he cheated? So it is clear that the Democratic Party put their finger on the scale to advance candidates that they thought were more electable, like Clinton and Biden. But Biden and Clinton won by extremely large margins. Large marge. Pee Wee Herman. Anybody? Anyways. I don't think that what the DNC did had made that much of an effect. I don't think they should have done it. I think that the parties should let the primaries play out. But like Biden and Clinton like fucking demolished Bernie Sanders in both of those primaries. So, they won them fair and square as far as I'm concerned. All right, Dave says, it's the liberal, it's ma'am, pronoun people that are ruining the Democratic image. Dave, I don't think that is as big of an issue as you think it is. Like I know a lot of people who feel very strongly about trans issues, and not a single one of them has yelled at me for calling them the wrong pronoun or anything like that. Additionally, like I don't understand why, if democratic socialist policies would make your life better, why is it that Democratic voters being annoying with their pronouns is the thing that would stop you from having a better life? Dave. Let's talk more about it, Dave. I'm excited about having you here. Goyo says Democrats are all corrupt. That is not true. LHAMO says we need to get Trump out. Agree. Siloto says, I think the U.S. shouldn't risk the global economy for a war with Iran. Not worth it. Completely agree. That's why I advise people to vote against the Republican Party, because the Republican Party not only started this war, did not plan well for this war, but they are continuing to allow it to happen. The Democratic Party is trying to vote with Republicans on taking away Trump's war powers because he's using them so irresponsibly. And the Republicans are just letting this happen. They're fucking asleep at the wheel. They're asleep at the wheel with the ICE atrocities. They're asleep at the wheel with all of the corruption and the crypto coin and the Trump kids flying all over the globe, trading political favors for business interests. The self-dealing is happening, and the Republican Party is allowing it. Okay. Ironim says public option or single payer. I would go with public. Aren't those synonymous? I thought those were synonymous. If I'm wrong, I would go single payer, but public option is also good. Okay. Brethren Hudson says, do you think that people shouldn't joke about Kirk's death? I don't know. Like, I think the same people who are saying that we need to lighten up about, saying the R word and making fun of gay people and using racial stereotypes and stand-up sets are the exact same people who are getting butthurt about people making jokes about Charlie Kirk's death. That being said, I think that political assassinations is like a really dangerous trend, and I don't think that we should take that lightly. I think that somebody was murdered in a way that was very unjust, and whether Charlie Kirk was a good guy or not, spoiler alert, he wasn't. I still don't like the sort of like escalatory potential of doing things like that. But I also can't stop people from making whatever jokes they want to make. So I don't personally do it. AB asks, why was JFK assassinated? I don't know. DOP says, would you take prime Taylor Swift or prime Antoine Griezmann? I don't know who Antoine Griezmann is. What's up, Dr. Larp? Brethren Hudson says, do you think Obama was a good president? Yes. Zia says, who is your favorite U.S. president of all time and why? I'm not really, I haven't gone through all the presidents and weighed their pros and cons. I have presidents that have done things that I've liked a lot, and I've had presidents who I think are really terrible, but I don't know best president of all time. Like that's not really what I do. User a bunch of numbers says, who will win the House in 2026? Nobody knows. Dr. Larp says, what do you think about the U.S. and Israeli military merging? I'm against it, but I think it's important that we clarify what that bill is actually doing. It's not merging the U.S. and Israel's military. It is cutting out America as the middleman for Israel to be able to get more bullets and rockets and military technology from American producers. Okay, Average says Ukraine did hit Ukrainian military supply ships. Do you mean Iranian, Average Joe? Because I think that's probably what you're referring to. Oh, interesting. Yeah, this is the first time hearing about it. Well, I guess that did happen. My apologies for being a smug jerk about something that I was confident that did not happen. But yeah, since I can't read the article right now, Average Joe, do you want to add a little context? Let me know. All right, user a bunch of numbers says Eisenhower is a pretty good choice for best president 20th century. Lincoln for 19th. All right, sure, if you think so. Brethren Hudson says, what do you think about missiles hitting Iran? I'm against it. CY says, what is your opinion on monarcho-distributism? I don't know what it is. Milkwood says, would you support a Democratic president adding 2 more Supreme Court justices? Absolutely. And I would even support a Democratic president adding 4 more Supreme Court justices. All right. Sugar Bear says, Kamala said she would go to war before the election. I do not believe that she did. Sai says, if the U.S. lost the Civil War, would Abraham Lincoln would be considered a bad president? Potentially. Brethren Hudson says, do you think the Russia-Ukrainian war should end, Jared? I do, but that's up to Russia. Like, Ukraine is just defending itself. Like, if somebody's trying to punch me in the face and all I'm doing is blocking, there's not a lot I can do to end that conflict. Dr. Larp says, what's the best type of government? Democracy. Austin Rehnquist says, I think the U.S. should keep their nose out of other people's wars, including Ukraine. I disagree with that. I think that where we can help nations, sovereign nations, defend themselves, we should. But I do not believe that we should be, for example, giving money and weapons to Israel to continue doing their war crimes in G-side. And also, I do not believe that we should be engaging in new forever wars in the Middle East with countries like Iran. Brethren Hudson says, do you think liberalism is any good? I mean, depending on how you define it, sure. SLT asks, should the U.S. government be allowed to take over state parks for national purposes? I don't think so. Those parks belong to us. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that the entire purpose of state parks is so that every American can enjoy them. But yeah, if the I don't believe the U.S. government should be able to, for example, take over state parks so that they can sell that land to fossil fuel conglomerates. Rish Ahab says hot take dictatorship is good if governed correctly. Just look at China. No, Rashab, because what are we going to do? We're going to just like hope and pray that the person that our dictator is going to be benevolent. There are some dictators who've done like some really truly great things, but also would throw people in jail without a trial. And I think that that is unfucking tenable. You know, like we need things like freedom of speech. We need to be able to replace our leaders. The government should be for the people, by the people, of the people. Not let's hope and pray that this guy is a good dictator. Oh, he's not. Okay, cool. Well, I guess I'm in a fucking gulag now for saying that I wish we could vote. All right. SLT says you understood the question. Great answer. Thank you, SLT. I forgot what even the question was. Okay, Willie says, are you an international liberal or a realist? I do not understand the distinction between those two things, Willie. Typerflip says, how come America won't give its land to Israel? Because it's over here and they're over there. Anthony Mann says, what do you think of the Obama administration? I thought they did a pretty good job, considering the degree of difficulty that the Obama administration was operating under. I thought they did a pretty good job. G-Face says, are you a Trump supporter? May I ask? You may ask, and I am not. Average Joe says Ukraine said it was a military supply vessel from Russia. Iran said it was a commercial vessel. We still don't know. We still do not know. Interesting. All right, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Iran was sending military supplies to Russia. Yeah, and I mean we're talking about Russia and Iran, which are two bad faith actors. I generally would trust Ukraine on that more than Iran, but even good governments and good politicians make mistakes sometimes and then try to cover it up. All right, CX Goaded says thoughts on Brandon Gill. Don't know who that is. Tristan says, would you like a parliament in America? Maybe. I don't know how it works. Adam P. Jen says ACA is a joke and it's destroying our country. That is inaccurate, Adam P. Jen. There are people alive today because of the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is the reason why insurance companies can't deny your claim because of pre-existing conditions. So there are people who are able to get medical treatment, critical medical treatment, because of the Affordable Care Act. Also, if the Trump administration was not actively trying to destroy the Affordable Care Act, it would currently be making everybody's healthcare cheaper. All right, Madcap asks, will Kanye ever be president? No. Alejandro says, would you call what the U.S. is doing with ICE domestic terrorism? I don't know. I believe that it is an abomination. I believe that it is a humanitarian nightmare. I believe it is illegal and barbaric and unproductive. But I don't know if I would call it terrorism. Yeah, I'm sure an argument. I'm not going to die on this hill, but I just don't know if it fits the technical definition. You know, it's bad. What ICE is doing is bad. All right. Dave says, I do think Congress and president need a max age limit. Okay, Dave. Did I miss some comments of yours, Dave? Because I had asked you more about like democratic socialist policies and stuff like that. So let me know. Adam P says subsidizing it with tax money doesn't make it cheaper. I mean, it literally did, though, Adam P. Adam P, you are in question jail. You either ask a question or let yourself out. CM Republican says, yeah, protecting the country is bad. ICE is not protecting the country. They are torturing brown people. User a whole bunch of numbers says cancel APAC completely. If you want to cancel APAC, you have to vote against the candidates that they support, which means not voting for any Republican. So I'm down for that. Mad About You says he didn't pass the Biden border bill, a bipartisan border act of 2024, so he can run on immigration. You're talking about Trump, I believe. And yes, that is accurate. And because of that, I believe that the Republican Party and Trump have zero credibility on immigration as an issue. And so nobody should vote for them. Brethren Hudson says, do you think trans people deserve rights? Yes, 100% they do because they're people. Alejandro says, I Googled it the other day and it was mirrored behavior. I don't know what you're referring to. That Sunday Rain says, what alternatives do we have to the proposed 100% generic RX test? Not up to date on it right now. Yeah, I don't know what we can do. If the Trump administration decides to start doubling the cost of people's generic prescriptions, I don't know what our recourse is other than driving to either Canada or Mexico and trying to smuggle those medicines back into the country. Maybe that's cheaper. I don't know, depending on where you live. Strangleton says, how could we have a third party competitive with Dems and Republicans? You would need ranked choice voting, and you only get that if you don't elect any Republicans. So the only way out is through the Democratic Party. Shork says, what have you spent your $2,000 Doge check on? My unicorns. Beach by Pizza says, how should we handle mayors who want to act like presidents? At what point is their rhetoric too much? I guess I don't know what exactly the issue is. Like, I don't know which mayors are acting like presidents. You're probably talking about Mamdani. That feels like a criticism that somebody would make of Mamdani. But I don't have a problem with any of the things that Mamdani is saying or doing. So yeah, I don't really, I don't really see that as being an issue. To me, that sounds like somebody who wants to hate Mamdani coming up with a reason to hate Mamdani, as opposed to actually finding a thing that he's doing wrong. Bueller's Day Off says, octopus on man's face. Are you referring to me? Do I have an octopus on my face? Blanca Catherine says, do you think Trump could get a 2/3 vote to change the 2 terms of the Constitution? No, 100% not. But I think critically, we need to recognize that he doesn't need to change any laws to run for a 3rd term. He just needs Congress and the Supreme Court to do nothing to stop him. And they have proven time and time again that they are down with doing nothing to stop him. All right, Wabibi, good to see you again. Sorry, I'm deep in these TikTok comments. Odin, oh, hold on a second. Dave says, every country that's tried socialism has reverted back to some form of capitalism. So, Dave, no country has ever actually tried socialism. There are countries that have called themselves socialist, and there are countries that have called themselves communist, but those countries have all been dictatorships, which is antithetical to those economic philosophies. I'm happy to talk more about that, Dave. So let's get more into it. Odinson says, how do we tackle big pharma? Excellent question, Odinson. I think part of the issue has got to be regulation. I think part of it has got to be universal health care. I think part of it has got to be freeing up universal health care to negotiate with big pharma. Yeah, breaking apart monopolies, funding our own research. Right now, there are a lot of companies, I believe big pharma is part of this, that are making bank based off of research that American taxpayers funded. And that's a very unjust and unequitable system. So, ergo, America should get a profit, should get a slice of any profit from a drug that was created because of research that we funded. It is absolutely fucking wild that the Republican Party has allowed this to happen. All right, Brethren says, do you think Trump sucks? Yes. BB says, which side do you stand for? The side of good, the Democratic Party. Dave says, I had ankle replacement surgery, $187,000 for real. That needs fixed. Again, that's Democrats and Democratic Socialists, Dave. Austin Ranko says, my medication is over $375 cheaper under Trump than it ever was under Biden. Doubt, Austin. I'm going to call that a big old doubt. Andrea asks, what is midterms? Midterms is the elections that happen in between the 4-year presidential elections. Willie says, do you think the city-run grocery stores in NYC will harm small businesses? I don't. The city-run grocery stores are intended to end food deserts, places that are impoverished, that do not have access to healthy, nutritious food. And so if there was a small business that was providing that, then those government-run grocery stores would not be popping up in those areas. Okay, Noah says, what do you think about Mamdani's balanced budget? I don't know why you put it in quotes. Seems pretty good to me. Unknown user says, Israel or Palestine? I'm for the citizens of both of those countries. I'm against the governments of both of those countries. Somebody whose name I can't read says, Democrats support Israel and billionaires. They just slightly less bad Republican. That is inaccurate. Would you like me to go into more detail? Because what you just said is inaccurate. Austin says, you can doubt, but it's a fact. Sorry, it don't fit your radical agenda. I don't have a radical agenda. I think that people should be able to afford healthcare. And based on everything that I have read, Austin, Trump has not done that, and the Republican Party has not done that. So I just think that you're sus as hell, and also you're in question jail. Sparky says, why do so many Americans not recognize what Trump's done now is not too dissimilar to AH and his rise? Because misinformation, propaganda, and information bubbles. Noah says he took $4 billion from the state to balance the budget, pushing the burden back on taxpayers. I do not know if that is accurate, Noah, and honestly, I got to say I'm pretty skeptical that it is. MJ Moonlight says, do you think Andy Burnham is 100% support Ukraine? My guess is that he is because he's labor, but I don't know. Strangleton says, thoughts on the White House hosting a UFC event? It was dumb culture war nonsense, but like not even close to the worst thing that Trump has done, even that same weekend. Cruz says, so Obamacare is not working. It is working. There are people alive today because of it. Odin says, I would like to see more teaching a man to fish alongside the giving a man a fish from Democrats. I mean, they do, Odin son. The issue is that we waste so much more money trying to get people off of welfare than if we just gave people welfare. And that money could be going to other things like training programs. Like the Democratic Party is not about letting people fall through the cracks or letting people just live on subsistence programs forever if they can get a job. Now, my personal belief is that nobody should ever have to work, but there are jobs that need doing, and we could hire those people to go do those jobs. If you're looking for the people that are enabling people to sort of like be on welfare their whole fucking lives, it's the Republican Party that just mass fired a bunch of veterans from the government. Cruz says, you said we need affordable health care, then say it's working. Which one? So there's different scales to this, Cruz. There's what would we be living under without the Affordable Care Act, which is worse than what we're currently living under now. But it can also be better, Cruz. So you seem like a pretty smart guy, Cruz. I think you should have probably known that. It almost seems like maybe you are being willfully obtuse to try to prove a point. Dave says funding Social Security for disabled and elderly needs more funding and can be funded. Completely agree with that, Dave, and that's democratic socialism for you, Dave. I still haven't heard what you don't like about democratic socialism, my guy. If it's just the trans thing, I honestly, I think you should just get past it, my guy, because if we're trying to make your life better and you're not going to allow that to happen just because you think pronouns are annoying, like you seems like you're kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face there, my guy. All right, Bryson says, why did Trump call LeBron racist? Because Trump is a child who uses words that don't mean what he thinks they mean. Alaham says, do you support the American participation in the Israel war against Iran? No. Odinson says, I think that's where you and I will always principally disagree. The work opinion that is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can just imagine a world where you like I am a freelancer, and so I do exactly the work that I want to do. I go on the road when I want to go on the road. I do my live streams when I want to do my live streams. So I don't have to work, but I do the work. I do work because I like what I'm doing. And I feel like everybody would be like that, like yeah, it's not people wouldn't just sit around and do nothing, they would do stuff. They just wouldn't be, like shackled to some sort of like billionaire, you know, fucking commuting every day to an office, chain themselves to a death just so that guy can be a billionaire, don't care for that. Cruz says, so you're a capitalist that wants communism? No, I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a communist. I'm a socialist. I believe in a mixed model. Seb says, do you think Iran would use their nuclear weapons if they had them? Potentially. I think that you need to be really careful where ideologically extreme religious theocracies are concerned. But I also think that they are smart enough to recognize how fucked they would be if they ever did something like that. All right, I've been really ignoring my my Twitch and YouTube, so let me grab this real quick. What BB says, realism is when countries mainly act in their own self-interest. Liberalism is when countries can achieve peace and prosperity cooperating through trade. I guess I would go liberalism then. All right, Java Joe says, here's the nuance. Iran is not the bad faith actor in the current conflict. Israel and the U.S. are. So, Average Joe, this is where I would completely disagree with you. Like, it is true that Israel and the U.S. are bad faith actors here, but also Iran is a bad faith actor. Like, they have murdered tens of thousands of their own citizens. Like, they are not good guys just because America and Israel are also the bad guy right now. Okay, Average Joe also says, oh my God, we need better civic education. Local governments have varying structures. In NYC, the mayor is basically the president of NYC. Some mayors just another councilman. Some mayors are more like a city manager. Accurate, Average Joe. All right, Tough Shit says, do you think teachers should get paid more? Yes, that's why I vote for Democrats. MJ Moonlight says, do you think Margaret Thatcher saved UK country when she's prime minister? No. Noah Bain, which says, please do your research about the Mamdani budget. It's a bunch of bullcrap held up by taxpayers' money. I mean, that is what every single budget is taxpayers' money. He's just getting more of it from the wealthy. And so trying to make New York City more affordable, Noah. Honestly, I know a significant amount about this, having lived in New York for 20 years. And I think you're wrong about this. I would encourage you to get your news from other sources. Brethren says, do you think doctors should be paid more than soldiers? Yes, I guess. I'm pretty sure they are. I guess that's where I'm making this face because all right. All right. Salvine says, what do you think about anarcho capitalism? I'm against it. Noah says it was $8 billion taken from the state, not the billionaires. Doubt, Noah. Also, you're in question jail. Either ask a question or leave. Alham says, that's propaganda, my brother. It's inaccurate. The only people who were hanged were the Mossad assets. You're talking about Iran murdering the protesters that were protesting against the government, Alham? No, that is inaccurate. All right. Talking Blah says, what's your thoughts on Nick Fuentes? I will never say anything about Nick Fuentes that he has not said about himself. And he is a self described misogynist, anti Semite, racist. And so he's a bad guy. Do not endorse. Cruz says, give us a list of anything the Democrats good for us. Sure. The Affordable Care Act saved people's lives. The Inflation Reduction Act was a massive investment in renewable energy. It was revitalizing small towns. The Biden administration's NLRB was siding with the unions for the first time. Biden was the first president to ever walk a picket line. The FTC under Biden was breaking up monopolies. The PACT Act was filling holes in veterans' health care. The CHIPS and Science Act was bringing high-tech manufacturing back to the states, capping the cost of insulin, capping the cost of asthma inhalers. Shall I go on? MAGA Versaverse says he hates that NYC is winning. That is accurate. Cruz then says nothing. Cruz, you are on thin ice. You either ask a question or leave. Tough Shit says, do the Democrats want to make it harder to access guns? Tough Shit, it's an interesting way to phrase it. Here's how I would describe it instead. I would say the Democrats want to do something to stop gun violence and gun deaths. And if that means that you need to get a license and insurance in order to get a gun, and that means that you need to take mandatory safety lessons in order to get that gun, I'm completely fine with people having to jump through those extra hoops. So, yeah, I guess technically, but really the goal is not to make getting guns harder. The goal is to decrease or end gun violence and gun deaths. All right, let me know what you think about that. Cruz says, I couldn't afford to live with Biden and same now. Well, both of those is Trump's fault, Cruz. Again, you're in question jail. Either ask a question or leave. Brethren says, do you think Kurt's death wasn't funny to joke about? Generally speaking, yeah. MJ Moonlight says, what's your thoughts on former Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? Seemed like an okay guy, but Canada hated him, so maybe he made a bunch of mistakes. SDD says, how about just jailing offenders? The problem is that sometimes people's first offense is murdering an entire high school. So, yeah, that's an issue. Noah says, can you look up the Mondani budget because I am not misinformed or lying? You are, Noah. You are. Sorry. I apologize, Noah. If you want, I'll send you some information on this, but I know about this. So, ergo, yeah. Do you want to ask another question? Something different? Ivium says, what role does wisdom play in a constitutional republic? A high one, I suppose. Brian Barbita says, thoughts on President Obama? I like him. Max Schmidt says, how is it Trump's fault that Biden had higher peak inflation and gas prices than both of Trump's terms? So it was Trump's fault because, number one, during COVID, Trump made a deal with gas and oil producing countries to limit supply because gas at a certain point was so inexpensive because people weren't going out and driving their cars that it was actually they were basically giving it away for free. And so that deal bled into the Biden, the first 2 years of the Biden administration, ergo gas prices started going up. Additionally, COVID fucked over supply chains, which made all the prices go up. The hyper monopolization that Trump and the Republican Party have been advocating for the past 50 years meant that there was no actual competition in the marketplace. So there was this greedflation that was happening. And Trump started a trade war at the end of his first term, and he's doing a trade war now as well. So all of these price increases and inflation are basically the fault of the Republican Party and Donald Trump. All right, Milton says excuses, blah, 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 blah. They're not excuses, they're reasons. And I'm out of patience. See you later. Moving Target says, do you think Mitch McConnell is a past tense person? Personally, yes, but I have no evidence. That's just something that I suspect because before he was in the hospital, he was already half in the grave. MJ says, do you think social media ban until 16 years is the right decision? Yes. Average Joe says, the entities supporting U.S. attacking Iran said Iran killed 10K citizens. These same entities have been lying to us for decades. about Israel occupation of Palestinians. Why believe them now? I believe that we have some independent reporting on this, Average Joe. This also assumes that the reason Israel and U.S. attacked, we know this to untrue as well. Oh yeah, I do not doubt that Israel and the U.S. did not attack Iran because Iran was killing its own citizens. But I'm pretty confident that we have accurate reporting that Iran was killing their citizens. Okay, New Cal says, "What do you think of Marco Rubio? He is jellyfish have more of a spine than Marco Rubio." Yeah, it's a toppled house has a better foundation. Like he's got no principles. He's a shell of a human being. He does not matter. He is fighting for relevance when he is an ant. Yeah, I have nothing good to say about Marco Rubio. All right, Ivium says, where is the wisdom in our society or culture coming from to address that high role? Education, teachers, you know. Matthew says, how do you think we can fix the Fox News epidemic? How do you regulate news but keep the First Amendment? Really good question, Matthew. And I'm not 100% sure what the answer to this is. Like, I don't think we can go back to the fairness doctrine. I think that ship has kind of sailed. We can reinstitute it and see what happens. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that, but I just worry that it would not have the teeth that it needs. So the answer, I think, is education. I think education is the way that you see past all of this bullshit. I don't think that people buy what Fox News and Breitbart and the Daily Wire are selling if you got a good education. Ooh, right. Where are we? Turtle and Ashel says Fox News isn't news; it's classified as entertainment. I believe that's accurate. Connie, Muzzking, SLT, Lily Spot, and Triska. Thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. MJ Moonlight says, "What is your thoughts of COVID-19 back in 2020 and 2021?" I mean, the fact that any Republicans were voted into office after the Republican Party mishandled that pandemic so significantly that an additional 100,000 Americans died that did not have to. That supply chains got fucked. That we're all trapped in our houses for the better part of a year when they could have stopped this in fucking Wuhan if they had just been responsible, competent actors who gave a shit. But instead, Trump just threw up his hands and said, "It's up to the states. The states can do it. I don't know. The federal government can't do this shit. What are we, the fucking strongest government that's ever existed on the planet? Get the fuck out of here. States, you do that shit. You do it. I can't be bothered. What are you talking about? I'm golfing. What am I going to do? Not golf? Yeah, you guys fucking fix COVID all yourselves, man." Ryan says, who wins the Senate race in Michigan? No idea. Nobody does. Lux says, 250 years as a country with two oceans on both sides. Why no free water? Because ocean water is not potable. And also, water is free in America. Magaverse says, we had U.S. scientists in Wuhan that Trump fired upon taking office. That is accurate. Gonzalo says, do you like Mexicans? Yeah, why wouldn't I? I like everybody. I like Mexicans. I like Canadians. I like French people and German people and Iranian people and Palestinian people and Israeli people and South Korean people and North Korean people. I like everybody. Missy Lane says, are Democrats going to take South Carolina seriously now? So I don't know if there's going to be any active campaigning in South Carolina for president. I don't know if they view that as a viable pathway to 270, Misty Lane. But as far as I know, the Democratic Party is working on a 50-state solution. Now, whether they're enacting it or have the money for it or the infrastructure for it, it is on their to-do list. Excuse me. User, a bunch of numbers says, you like Bibi. No, I do not. I've been hating Bibi since before you even knew who he fucking was. Hasa says, sad to see the people being divided and full of hatred. That is accurate. Poyraz says, what do you think about crime percentages? I think it's good to have crime percentages so that we know how much crime there is. Matthew says, would a Republican ever win again if the Electoral College was removed? Yeah, Trump won the popular vote in 2024. So yeah, Republicans can win the popular vote. Okay, Argentina says, do you think the misinformation campaign attacking Argentina right now? I don't know anything about the misinformation campaign attacking Argentina right now. Argentina hasta la muerte. A asks, do you support Trump? No. Argentina says, was started by the American Democratic Party to discredit the Milei's government. I do not believe that is accurate at all. Argentina, hasta la muerte. So, yeah, the Democratic Party is not wasting their resources trying to spread misinformation about Milei. They are using their resources to try to get Democrats elected in America. Kenny, Muzzking, Mia, and Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my third my third gift goal of the day. That means that it is time for finger hearts. It is finger hearts o'clock, everybody. Argentina says, I think they are. Well, Argentina, you're wrong about that. Sorry, I'm saying this as nicely as I possibly can. There is zero evidence of that happening. So I believe that you are getting misinformation. Okay, wow. Aaron, Kenny, and Mia, thank you so much for helping me reach my first finger hearts goal of the day. Michael Lopat says, unpopular opinion, Republicans aren't right-wing, just centrist. Oh, no, the Republican Party is extremely right-wing. They have only become more extreme as time has gone on. So, yeah, no, I don't buy that for a second. All right, MJ says, do you think David Cameron, Theresa May, and Boris Johnson couldn't reach an agreement on Brexit? I mean, didn't they reach an agreement on Brexit? User a whole bunch of numbers asks, are you right-wing? No. LA Triangle says immigrants are more beneficial rather than harmful, especially well-off rich immigrants. I don't know about the rich ones, but I'm definitely down with. It is accurate to say that immigrants are more beneficial than harmful. User says, do you think it's kind of ironic that Ukraine is doing better without U.S. aid than it did with U.S. aid? You know, user, I don't know if that's accurate. Like, I know that the Trump administration is kind of making it difficult for Ukraine to get aid, but I don't think the aid has ever stopped from America. I'm pretty confident of that. I could be wrong, but yeah, good for them. Very pleased that they've been able to defend themselves. Kenny and Sandy, thank you so much for helping me reach my second finger hearts goal of the day. Oh boy, we're in monologue territory, everybody. Things are getting very exciting. Nexu says, what do you think about Israel? I'm for the people, I'm against the government. Delta Set says, does big oil have a hold on the progression of public transportation? I believe so. There is a reason why the Republican Party is so dogmatically against public transportation, and it's because their billionaire fossil fuel donors do not want them to do that. They want people to be forced to have gas guzzling cars. Kenny and Muzz King, thank you so much for helping me reach my third finger hearts goal of the day. And now we're on to High Bears, guys. It could really happen today. We could really get a monologue today. All right, Noah says, do you know how much Eric Adams received from the state in order to help with his budget crisis? I don't, Noah, but you were aware that Eric Adams was a really bad and corrupt mayor, right? Like, Noah, I gotta be honest, man, you're sus as hell. It really seems like your only vibe here is trying to say that everybody besides Mom Donnie is great. So, yeah, you're sus, man. You're sus. Okay, Marty D says, did we have open borders under Biden? No, we did not. Noah says, no, I'm not. You don't get to decide if you're sus or not. Kenny and Muzz King, thank you so much for helping me reach my first High Bear goal of the day. All right, somebody with the SS logo says, define fascism. Okay. So fascism can be defined in two ways. It can be defined theoretically and logistically. The theoretical definition of fascism is everything for the state. So if the state tells you that the most important thing for the state is for you to kill your family, then you kill your family. The logistical side of it is, what do fascist dictators do? There's a list of 12 things. I don't remember all of them, but they are things like attacking institutions of higher education, attacking the media, attacking the news, demagoguing or scapegoating marginalized groups of people. For Adolf, it was the Jews. For the Trump administration, it is immigrants. For Nigel Farage, it is immigrants, et cetera, et cetera. Trying to take control of culture, consolidating power, ignoring checks and balances, things like that. All right, Noah says that no, I am not was to claim that I'm only here to shit on Mom Donnie. All right, well, what were you going to say about Eric? You know what? Don't even, man. Either ask a question or leave. R.I. Stafford says, do you believe Nolan Wells' friends? I don't know who Nolan Wells is. Mac Gamble says, can you finally tell me if Trump is a black trans queer? He is not. Ernest Edwards says, let the kids eat the old. I don't know. Cannibalism is really not good for you. Coolio says, most overrated and underrated presidents. Matthew says electoral college removal would make campaigns expand, likely shifting us left. Thoughts? I don't know. I don't know if getting rid of the electoral college would significantly push the voting base to a more left-wing ideology. I do think that people would be more engaged in voting because fewer people would feel like their votes are being thrown in the garbage or count less than other people's votes. And an argument could be made that when more people vote, Democrats do better in elections. So yeah, I suppose if you look at it in a specific light, that's the case, but I don't believe there's anything intrinsic about the electoral college that is keeping people's political philosophy from being left wing. Alrighty. Okay. Noah says, why, when I try to show evidence of socialism not working, do I get told to shut up? I do not believe that anybody is telling you to shut up, Noah, but I also do not believe that you have any evidence of socialism not working. MJ says, what do you think of Liz Truss when she was UK Prime Minister for only 44 days? We have so many examples of right-wing austerity politics failing. Liz Truss is just one of the most incredible examples of it. A1K says, hello, are you liberal? I call myself a leftist, but I'm sure some people will call me a liberal. Botello says, best right-wing candidate in Brazil currently? I have no idea. There's no good right-wing candidates. Only vote for left-wing candidates, everybody. Okay, Abstract Iran says, should Trump have to register personally with the IAEA after his bombing at the WHCD? I gotta be honest, Abstract, that question went a little over my head. So sorry about that. Saint Topaz says, what do you think about the STV system for the US? The can you clarify what that is, Saint Topaz? Kenny, thank you so much for helping me reach my third high bear goal of the day. That means that it is donut o'clock. And of course, we also get Karis Nemec's manifesto from the TV show Andor. So thank you very much to everybody who helped me reach all of my gift goals. There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this: freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And then remember this: the imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Authority requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. And know this: the day will come when all these skirmishes and battle, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try. All right. Let's get back to these comments. Saint Topaz says, single transferable vote. This is the first time I'm hearing about this, Saint Topaz. Has any place have a single transferable vote? Does that mean everybody gets one vote, but if you don't like who won, you can move it around or something? Okay. Swamp Stomper says, didn't miss the monologue. What does that mean? Does that mean that you hate the monologue? Marty D says, do you have a top choice for Democratic president? Yeah, I like Chris Murphy, but nobody has declared yet, so we don't even know who's running. MJ asks, what do you think of Joe Biden when he falling down an airplane when he going to Atlanta? He was old, and everybody falls, even old people. Oh, and Joy Swamp Stomper says, I enjoy it. All right, sweet. Sammy Roche says, what do you think of South Dakota's governor's race? Don't know anything about it, Sammy. Turtle and Half Shell says, oh, thank you, Turtle. Sammy did that one. Charlie says, why isn't there more than two parties in the U.S. politics? So there are a bunch of sort of like winner-take-all style political levers in the American electoral system that makes it very difficult for other parties to get involved. We could potentially fix this with what's the word I'm looking for? With reforms like ranked choice voting. But for now, the mechanisms of the political parties is kind of perfect in the sense that you can change the political party from the inside by voting for different candidates in the primary. The Republican Party is doing this by voting for more MAGA candidates, and the Democratic Party is doing this by voting for more progressive candidates. And hopefully people will vote for the progressive Democrats because they are way better than MAGA Republicans. All right, Daniel says socialism will work in America. Socialism is currently working in America. Daniel, paved roads, public schools, the fire department, the military, all socialist organizations. And in fact, where capitalism has failed in having prohibitively expensive healthcare, higher education, and housing, I believe that America should be competing with socialized healthcare, socialized housing, and socialized education. Glenn says, no, you're wrong. Go Trump. Does not seem like you are here in good faith, Glenn. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready now. Matthew says, do you think Trump yells Mark Wayne off the White House porch in his Southern accent? Potentially. Maxine says, what do you think about illegal immigrants? Maxine, my personal opinion is that I don't really care if somebody comes here illegally or not. Immigrants are a net positive wherever they go. I am down with countries having borders, but I'm also down with people moving to different countries. So let's see here. Real Bennett says, thoughts on Biden tapes that disclose he took classified documents home. I don't believe that Biden took classified documents home on purpose. I believe that if the FBI and the whatever, there's like a Bureau of Presidential Records or some shit, I believe if they asked for those documents back, that he would give them back. There's a difference between that and what Trump did. Trump stole a bunch of documents that he knew he was not allowed to take. The White House asked for them back. He lied. He refused. He obfuscated. He hid them. The FBI had to do a raid on his Mar-a-Lago compound and found all of these documents that he was hiding in a room that had a fucking Xerox machine in it for some fucking reason. So, ergo, yeah, I don't really care. Okay, Noah says, I agree some aspects of our economy should be socialist, but a very select few. Okay, Noah, I'm down with that. Do Funny says, will a DSA executive lead to civil war? No. Kia Girl says, Caitlin Collins, legit news person or poster child? I don't really remember who Caitlin Collins is. Is that the woman that Trump is always saying, why don't you smile more? Cram says, but one evil party by two names, W.E.B. Du Bois. Cram, just because somebody in the past said it doesn't mean that it is accurate. Family Man says, Biden had no right to possess those documents and he left them in his garage. Okay, I'm fine with that. Because he was not selling access to those files in his garage the way that Trump was. Duncan Crossbury says, what is the best book you've read so far in the last year? Ooh, in the last year, there's a book called Stoner that is not about what the book sounds like. It's not about people like Willie Nelson. It is just a dude's last name. He's a professor in turn of the century America in Missouri. He becomes an English professor. Beautiful book that I just read. Highly recommend it. It is such a shame that its title is Stoner because it does make it sound like it's about, hippies in the 60s or some shit like that. But yeah, that was great. I fucking loved Demon Copperhead was great. I loved Injustice, which is about the Supreme Court. I loved I got a whole rec section for political books on my what do you call it? Ooh, I just finished listening to Ben Rhodes's What We Say. That was excellent also. Graham says, how can you talk politics if you don't even know who Du Bois is? Because my expertise is not in history. It is in contemporary politics. Okay, St. Topaz says, STV is basically having a rank list of your preferred candidates. If your chosen candidate doesn't win, your vote would move to your second candidate and so on. We call it ranked choice voting, St. Topaz. Is there a substantive difference between STV and RCV? Let me know. Mikhail Meme says, yo, what's up? How is all the moms? Satisfied. All right, Itzy says, what do you think about Lebanon's potential? That's over my head, so sorry. Fletch Lives Again says, Trump is supposed to release financial docs for his lawsuit. I didn't see him doing it. Yeah, I cannot wait to see what happens. Marty D says, The Truths is an excellent book. These Truths is an excellent book. I have not read that one. Shork says, thoughts on Hunter Biden interviewing Nick Fuentes? Two people that I find annoying. So yeah, not going to listen. Family Man says, do you think supermarkets run by the government is good? Yeah, because there are food deserts where people cannot get healthy food. Their only option is expensive junk food instead. Okay, let's see here. Sonia DeBoss, good to see you again. Maxine says, socialism never works. Look at Germany after Second World War. all wealthy countries are capitalist. Being wealthy does not mean that you are successful, Maxine. For example, America is very wealthy, but I would argue that America is currently very much not successful, where you have people who have multiple mega mansions and private jets and mega yachts, while people are struggling to put food on the table, to afford higher education for their children, to afford health care, to find a place to live. Also, socialism is not what Germany did after the Second World War. That was called fascism. Matthew says, do agree that sadly we are here to do an intense and vile reaction to electing a black man. I think partially, Matthew, I think that the billionaire class has been working at having a government like this for a very long time. They have been enacting a sinister secret plot to undo government for at least the past 60-ish years. Read Dark Money by Jane Mayer. All the regulars take a shot. Read Dark Money by Jane Mayer. It outlines in incredible detail the plot by the richest people to try to dismantle government so that they don't have to worry about rules and they can collect as much ill-gotten gains as they like, and they can accidentally kill a bunch of teens and have zero consequences to it, hunt us for sport, become the new kings and queens of the billionaire class, and the rest of us become their serf wage slaves for the rest of time. All right. Jonathan says, John Mayer? No, Jane Mayer. John Mayer did not write any books. I mean, he did write the book on being a shitty boyfriend to Jessica Simpson and Taylor Swift. And others, probably. All right, Dark Money by Jane Mayer. All of my book recommendations are on my Discord channel. Link is in the bio. All right, somebody's name I can't read says, do you think it's unfair non-U.S. born citizens can't become president? No, not necessarily. Maxine says, no, after the Second World War, the country was split two ways, capitalist and communist, less socialist. Maxine, what are you referring to, Maxine? What are you talking about? Oh, yeah, no, you're wrong, Maxine. Sorry about that. Oh, Adam! Yes, I remember you introduced yourself to me earlier, Adam, and I forgot. All right, Adam, good to see you again. I am open to arguments that non-US born citizens could eventually become president, but doesn't really seem like even close to the biggest problem that America is facing today. So I'm going to punt on that. Mikhail, I have not had time to see that video yet. Every time you ask, I push it further down the to-do list. Okay, Misty Lane says communism and capitalism suck. I mean, depending on how you do them, I think you could have good versions of both of them. St. Topaz says some parts of the UK and India as well. I think the US uses it locally in some places, but I think it's called proportional ranked choice voting. All right, yeah, so it is. Yeah, St. Topaz. Sorry about that. I did miss that earlier comment. All right, everybody, we're going to start wrapping things up. Thank you so much for all of your support. I very much appreciate it. If you want to support the show, there's a lot of ways you can do it. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send bits on Twitch. You can be a fan or a super fan on TikTok. Being a fan is free. Being a super fan is a subscription. You could also be a subscriber on Twitch. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel for free. Costs you $0, helps me out a ton. So I'd really appreciate it if you used your Amazon Prime account to become a free subscriber to my Twitch account. You can also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a day, though there's a very fun incentive at $10 if you have the money for it and if you really want to support me that much. You could also just send your likes, send your shares, and shoot me a follow and tell your friends how great this live stream is. I'm trying to do a different kind of political discourse where people aren't mean to each other and there's no debating. It's just this is the reality. These are the facts. Let's at least agree on what's going on, and then maybe we can have good-natured disagreements about how to fix the problems that we can at least, agree on what they are. If you have any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, DMs are open. You can also email me through my website. Link is in the bio, or hit me up on my Discord channel. Link is also in the bio. I want to be a resource for you to be more informed and more involved in politics. So however I can do that for you, use me and abuse me. I also love the Discord because there's recommendations there for you to check out for things like books and podcasts and also civic actions. And the civic actions is really important. Like, we all have to be a part of this work to try to fix what the billionaire class has fucked up. Like, the billionaire class is very powerful. They have all the resources. They control all the mechanisms of information getting from social media to mainstream media to right-wing media. So how do we fight back? We each individually do the work because there's way more of us than there are of them. So if we all do the work, then we win. And if you don't know what work to do, go to the Discord or send me a message. I want you to be a part of this fight. Because again, the only way that we win is if all of us do a little bit of the work. And the good news is the more people that do the work, the less work there is for everybody to do, which I like a lot. If my job by myself is, chopping down 10 trees, but then I get a couple of people to help and now I only have to chop down half of one, that's a lot easier. Then I can go, hang out with my wife and my baby and have a nice time, watch some movies. Okay, everybody, let me see here. Fried Chicken Enjoyer says, do you support ICE? No. No, I do not. And if not, how do you propose America deport immigrants? America deported immigrants before ICE existed. Fried Chicken, we could use immigration and we could use the Customs and Border Patrol instead. All right, everybody, I am out of here. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So do the work, be good to each other. You don't have to be a dick to do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work as well. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.